Hello, my name is Jill Mastriani. Thank you so much for joining and watching this Do You Need a Will video. First, a short disclaimer. This presentation is for educational and information purposes only. We are not establishing an attorney-client relationship here. If you want a copy of this slide deck, I'm happy to send it to you. Just email me, jill@deathreadiness.com. So, what even is a will? Well, a will, also known as a last will and testament, it's a legal document signed by the testator, and it directs what should happen to your probate assets after you die. Testator and probate are words that not everyone knows, so I'm going to get into a little more detail on those. Who is the testator? And why does it sound like a medieval job title? Well, the term testator used to be used a lot more frequently, but now, in modern times, it's really just used to refer to a person who has written a will. Probate sounds intense, but what is it really? Well, probate is a legal process of validating a will, if there is one, settling debts, and distributing the decedent's probate assets. It is a court-supervised process. Here you see Judge Andra Hedrick of the Davidson County, Tennessee Probate Court, which sits in Nashville, Tennessee. So, is there a probate if you don't have a will? Yes, there is a probate if you have probate assets. Probate without a will is what is referred to as intestate succession. And intestate succession, or who your probate assets go to if you don't have a will, is determined by your state's law. So let's say I die a resident of the state of Tennessee. That's where I practiced law for 12 years. I'm married and I have 2 children. So what happens to my probate assets? Well, under Tennessee's intestate succession statutes, my probate assets go 1/3 to my husband, 1/3 to my son, and 1/3 to my daughter. A lot of people think everything will go to the surviving spouse, and in a lot of cases, that's not true. But how do you find out if you have probate assets? Well, probate assets, as a reminder, are governed by your will, if you have one, or your state's intestate succession laws, if you don't have one. In trying to figure out whether you have probate assets, I like to ask 2 questions. First, is the decedent the sole owner of the interest in the asset? And if yes, does the interest in the asset pass by contract? So that's payable-on-death designation, transfer on death, a beneficiary designation. And just to note, there are exceptions to these rules. I'm simply generalizing here. Let's go through this category of assets because these are, I think, the most common categories of assets that a lot of people own. First, is this vehicle a probate asset? Well, let's ask the first question. Am I the sole owner? No, I'm not. I own it with my husband, Jeremy. So if Jeremy survives me, this is not a probate asset. It passes directly to him because we own it jointly. What about our home? Is that a probate asset? Well, let's look. Am I the sole owner? No, I am not. Jeremy and I own it jointly. So if Jeremy survives me, it will pass directly to him. It will not be a probate asset. What about financial accounts? Same 2 questions. Am I the sole owner? Does the interest pass by contract? Here's a checking account. Look, I am the sole owner. Second question, does it pass by contract? Well, you'll see here that there is a POD, payable-on-death designation. So if Jeremy survives me, this is not a probate asset. The asset will pass directly to Jeremy. In my retirement account, it has a beneficiary designation because I named beneficiaries. Sometimes it can be tricky to find. Here it's on page 8 of 9 of my provider statement. But you see the primary beneficiary is Jeremy. If he survives me, this is not a probate asset. It goes directly to him. But If he doesn't survive me, take a look at the contingent beneficiary. It is the estate of Jillian Mastriani. That is my probate estate. If Jeremy does not survive me, this is a probate asset. What about tangible personal property? We've got the same two questions. So let's say that you have a really expensive painting that you purchased before you got married. Just make sure that the title to that painting is clear. And if you don't want it to pass as part of, your general tangible personal property, make sure to name a person in your will who you want to receive it. Same thing with that diamond ring. If you bought it before or after marriage, but it's your own, make sure that you name who it passes to in the will, unless you want it to pass as part of your general tangible personal property. So here, a lot of times we have one person being the owner, and the interest in the asset is often not going to pass by contract. So a lot of times tangible personal property is a probate asset. What about pets? Well, pets are property. They too are probate assets, unless you have some sort of joint ownership designation for them. These 3 dogs are mine. They were adopted. My name is on all of their adoption agreements. So likely they would pass as part of my probate estate, but practically my husband would take them. There's not going to be an argument here. But if you do anticipate an argument about your pets, just make it extra clear in your will who should get them, and make it extra clear that you own them. So how do we figure out whether something's a probate asset? As a review, first question, is the decedent the sole owner? If yes, does the interest in the asset pass by contract? If it does pass by contract, it is not a probate asset. If it does not pass by contract, it is a probate asset. Here's just a list of non-probate assets: jointly held assets, assets with a named beneficiary, whether that's payable on death or transfer on death, also assets titled in trust, passed to a trust beneficiary. So let's go back to where we started. Do you need a will? Well, yes, you do. If you own stuff that's in your name alone, like house, a car, maybe a checking account, and there's no beneficiary named. Why? Because unfortunately, those things don't just automatically pass to the people we love. They go through probate. So if you have probate assets today, or if you might someday, you need a will. It's not just for the wealthy, it's for everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today on this Do You Need a Will presentation. My contact information is right here for you, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.